Hey, cool kids. It's just me again, Jeff, with a word of exhortation and recommendation. So, my recommendation is this book right here. It's the writings of Clement of Alexandria, and it's a few different books. It's his exhortation to the Greeks. It's also a wonderful book called How Can a Rich Man Be Saved? Excellent reading. I would get this edition here, translated by G.W. Butterworth, not the syrup person. But I also wanted to just give you a quick story and an exhortation. So the exhortation is, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will direct your paths, right? So Hebrews, excuse me, man. Hebrews 12:2 says, do not forget to minister to or help or entertain strangers. For in doing so, some of you have unwittingly entertained angels. A quick story. This past weekend, I was in I'm going to get a drink. I was in a North Texas town. And visiting and with a whole bunch of people, and we went to a Wingstop to eat dinner, right? And I noticed that outside this Wingstop was a lady sitting on the ground, and she had a sign that said homeless, and I forgot what the other word was, but it was a really nice sign. And the lettering that she had written on the sign was very, very good. I mean, it looked like a really well done, thought out and done sign. It wasn't like the ones you see with people handing on the road. And it was folded up into like a triangle and sitting on the ground in front of her. And she was sitting cross-legged behind it. And she was like 2 doors down from the Wingstop. Well, you know, as I almost always do or try to do, I went over to her and I said, hi, you know, and I don't mean to interrupt or intrude or anything. And I said, you know, but I'm a follower of Jesus, and so I like to just make sure people are okay, because he wants to make sure people are okay. And so, is there anything that I could do for you? She said, well, I'm kind of hungry. Now, she looked not very disheveled. She had very nice jewelry on, and her hair was actually in a neat cap. She said, I'm kind of hungry. Wow. Okay. Pardon me with all the stuff. And I said, well, do you like Wingstop? We're going to have dinner there. Can I buy you some dinner there? And she said, I would love that. And I said, well, why don't you come in and eat with us? And she said, I don't feel comfortable doing that. I said, okay. So I went in and just ordered some food for her. And I got it. And my wife and family ordered their food. And I said, I'll be right back. And I got her food. And I took it over there. And I said, here you go. And then I talked to her a little bit. I said, you know, what I always ask. Do you know about God? Do you know about Jesus? Do you know Jesus? Do you know that he loves you? Can I pray for you? All that stuff. And she was very calm in demeanor and very nice. She said that she had kind of a body odor, because another reason she didn't want to come in, but I didn't see any of that. Anyway, I went in and had dinner. You know, wings, so didn't take a long time. And some other people in our group, actually specifically my friend's wife, went out there. She came back and was like, what happened to that lady? I said, what do you mean? She said, she's not there. Well, I went outside and she wasn't there. Now, it's possible that she got her food and packed up all of her stuff and went somewhere. And it's possible that somebody drove by and offered to give her a ride somewhere. And it's also possible that she really wasn't homeless, but maybe something had gone wrong and she was just trying to get something to eat. All those things are possible. But it's also possible, according to Hebrews 12:2, that she was an angel. And I have picked up angels on the side of the road before. That doesn't mean everybody's an angel. There's been some rough folks, and I'm not recommending that you pick people up, but I have a background in protection and security and all that kind of stuff, so I'm a little different. But she might have been an angel. I don't know. But either way, the whole point of that is the benefit that I got from just our brief interaction was worth far more than the little bit of money that I spent getting her a dinner at Wingstop. And in today's world, as we're approaching the end of human history, remember I've said over and over again, I firmly believe, we have less than 50 years left in human history. And one day I'll do a long video on that, but not today. But the bottom line is, you should live your life that way. Not because of me, but because that's what Jesus said to do, right? He said anyone who gives one of these little ones, he was talking about children, of course, a cup of water, cold water in my name, does it to me, right? And when he judges everyone at the end of the world, and people are judged by him, by Jesus, King of the world, King of the universe, and he says, you're condemned. Depart from me, because I don't know who you are. And they say, well, wait a minute. Didn't we do all this cool stuff and use your name? Didn't we do cool things? Didn't we vaccinate children? Didn't we do all this stuff? And we said we were doing it for you. How in the world are we condemned? And the Bible says that Jesus will say, well, I was hungry and you didn't give me anything to eat. I was thirsty and you wouldn't give me anything to drink. I was naked, you wouldn't give me any clothing. I didn't have anywhere to stay and you wouldn't invite me in. And they say to Jesus, well, Lord, when were you hungry and when were you thirsty? We didn't see you. When were you naked? We would have known that. And Jesus said, because you would not do this to those people that everybody considers outcast or down, or in other words, the least of these, he said, because you won't do that, you didn't do any of those things to them, you wouldn't do it to me. And because you wouldn't even give me something to drink, I don't know who you are, and therefore, bye Felicia. That's my ghetto transliteration, right? Well, you don't want to be one of the people that Jesus says, I don't know who you are, right? Think about this. The last thing, again, we're talking about Hebrews 12:2. You might be entertaining angels. What if God sent an angel to test you? And what if there was somebody that was homeless on the side of the road that God sent there, an angel who was actually an angel, and you were supposed to give them a drink of a bottle, go to buy them a bottle of water at the convenience store and give it to them. And you wouldn't do it. What blessing might you have just walked past or driven past, right? Maybe you're too busy. Maybe it was inconvenient because you had a bunch of friends there. It's never inconvenient. I don't know if any of you have ever been in a place where you were hungry or thirsty. I've been there before. And I was grateful that someone brought me something to eat or drink. So live your life that way. Do what Jesus said, But remember Hebrews 12:2. And you might be entertaining an angel. Now, again, public service announcement, use discretion. Be careful. If you're a lady, if you're a female, don't go around homeless encampments with a bunch of men by yourself handing out bottles of water. Okay, that's just not wisdom. But if you're going to go with other people, or you're in a public area, or there's someone there that's like this young lady who was obviously not, I mean, she could have been a threat, right? My security background says, well, she could have had a firearm in the backpack. She could have had a knife. So I didn't run up there and try to give her a hug. I kept my distance and I watched what she was doing. But, so that's wisdom, right? But I still had the opportunity to minister to her. Anyway, love you, be blessed, minister to people. And I'll tell you what Johnny Van Zant always says, right? Look up. Our redemption draws near. Love y'all. Bye.